So we're going to start with the case, which is the Corsair 4000D. It's a full-size ATX case. Comes with 2 case fans. I switched it where this back one's the intake. This is the out. It pushes out the air. Yeah. And we also, because that's not enough, we have an AIO cooler. It's water cooling by Cooler Master. And so, yeah, we're going to get started with the motherboard, which is a X670 Prime by Asus. So it is platformed for AM5 motherboards, which is AMD, of course. And before we put this in, we need the bracket to put back into the back, the panel bracket. Now, to find that is another story, because I popped it out. I found this bracket. So what we're gonna do, make sure this is the words and stuff facing outwards. Ooh, that is grimy. All right, so we put that in, have it facing this way, pop it right in here. Let's see, like so. We get it right there, smack it in there. This is the second time I've used this case. The first build consisted of a Ryzen 7 5700G RTX 3070 KO by Asus. I'm quite an Asus glutton, if you want to use that phrase. And 32 gigabytes of DDR4 clocked in at, I think, overclocked to 5400 megatransfers a second. And I think about 12 terabytes of storage. One NVMe SSD from WD Black. Now this one, we are first going to install the SSD, which happened to be a SSD I had pulled out of a laptop. We're going to see what brand it is. The moment, I'm going to bet you it's a, well, not terribly sure what brand this is. Yeah, I pulled out of a Asus laptop, which happens to be the one over there. So we're gonna put this in here. And the neat thing about this board, and many modern boards, you can just flip this right here, this little thingy, and it just works. Nice thing is we have a 32 gig kit of G-Steel clocked in at 6,000 megatransfers a second. So we're going to install it in the second and fourth slot. We're going to push that down, and I believe it goes this orientation. Nope, it does not. This is the problem I have with DDR5 is you can't judge by the size as much because of it being so close. Now, the best way to align it otherwise is to match the lettering, whichever way this lettering is facing on the motherboard. Have the name on the RAM face the same way. 2 clicks, it's in, that's in. Next thing we're gonna do is install the CPU, which is a Ryzen 9 7950X, which now uses the LGA socket versus the all past AMD CPUs. It's a 16 core, 32 thread CPU, and you can see there's still some thermal paste residue left on it. Seat that right in there. Boom. Now we got the RAM, we got that, we got the SSD. Not quite done. Now we need to screw down the motherboard, which apparently I left the screws on another table. Now that we got everything screwed down, mounted decently, we're gonna do GPU before the AIO. And the GPU is a AMD 7900 XT. As you can see, no RGB. I don't have as much of a care for RGB, and my PC has been kind of just everywhere. So we're gonna install that right here in the first slot, not back there. It's a chunky boy, steel. That is plastic right there. Yeah, it's heavy. That's the point. So then we got that, and we're gonna screw in this bracket right here if we can fit it. Yep. Sure enough, push down. This is gonna be a pain. Ooh, they're not magnetic. Just gonna stick them in there. Now we have this cooler from Cooler Master, this AIO. The orientation, it is already adjusted in. Should be such like this. We're gonna put it out top. I once had it with the 5700G orientation over there, but I have preferred it on the, like right here on the top for a hot minute now. Before we install, I almost forgot to replace all my Lanza. So here, we got a thing of some off-brand Heinzloo. Don't terribly know. We're gonna do an X. I didn't do that one all. There we go. Many will argue that's too much thermal paste. I got it in, took a minute, and I've learned to put the AIO in first instead of the GPU. Lesson learned. Now we find the pump. The top one says pump right there, and it's a CPU fan on the second one. So we're gonna put this 3 prong over into the 4 prong because 3 can fit into 4 and 4 can't fit into 3. You know what? We're taking out the GPU. Now we got RGB header, fan for this, cable for that, cable for this. We're going to connect the rest of the cables at the end, leaving the GPU out because that is an absolute horrendous thing to get in. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put this in. So I don't believe this is how, yes it is. No, it's not. I had it like this last time. No, why I had it like that? So I could pull all these 4 cables, do this number with them. I could put them back there. Hole back here. I just lost my own lighter. Okay. I'm gonna fit this hole. This is the hole. I got it done. I got the AIO installed. Fans plugged in. All the fans are plugged in. So you can see no cable management. And yeah. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick up this case. What we're gonna do is, short enough, pop in the power supply. So we do have an Ares Gaming power supply, 750 watt, 80 plus bronze, and yeah. And to acknowledge, it is semi-modular, so it has its main cables. It has SATA, Mobo Power, and Molex. And to say we are using Molex for the RGB header today, and we have the PCIe and CPU cables attached to the semi-modular, which is quite nice. So slide that right through. I got the power supply in. We're going to bring this over and screw it in. Boom. Where is it? There it is. Oh, there, right there. The two corners. Alright. Power supply's in. Now we're going to take this 24 pin connector. We're going to need all 24 pins. It does split off into 20 and then 4 if I want to, but we're going to keep the 24 pin connector for the motherboard. Alright, so we're going to take this. There's going to be a hole in the front. Actually, right in the side. So, whoop. You see this thing called gap. I'm going to take this, we're going to scoot all the other cables over. I'm going to scoot it right through. And now we're back on the front. And we take this 24 pin, find the 24 pin slot, and we stick it in. It doesn't quite click anymore. It's been used a lot. I'm going to line that a little bit better. There we go. Now that's plugged in. And we're going to route through CPU power. Now, CPU power is also put on with the logo of CPU, which means we're going to have to drop that AIO. But first, before we do such, CPU power cables are labeled with CPU on them. Look, CPU on both. Or it's the CPU on one and it's the CPU on the 8 pin. So it's usually split two 4 pins, or one 4 pin and then 8 pin. Yeah. So right here, this is our 12 pin for CPU. And you see, we're going to route through, well, both 8 and the 4s. First, we're going to put through the 4s. We can fit. Swear, if I ever get big enough to be sponsored, either Cooler Master is going to hate me with a passion, or they're going to love how I show how reliable their stuff is. It's either I am destroying their stuff and they hate me, or it's your lack of care is showing how good quality our stuff is, and we want to sponsor you. More than likely, it's going to be they hate me because whenever it comes to my own stuff that I buy, I have more of a lack of care than whenever other people buy it for me. I am careful with other people's stuff. Whenever it comes to my own, it kind of presumes of more of a lack of care, because I don't have to worry about it if it breaks. I do have to worry about it if it breaks. Everything's expensive now. Yeah. we're gonna reinstall the AIO and come back. Well, we got the AIO in, so that's good. Now, next we are going to pull in through the bottom, like right here. We're gonna pull in the GPU power cables. We're gonna pull out the front head connectors to the back, pull those up. I'm gonna show you how to do the front panel connectors. Plug in the USB, where is it? There's a USB hub up here, and there's a USB hub right there. Audio, front panel audio. That's front panel audio, I don't know what I'm thinking. SATA, plug in everything. Cable manage, yeah. Before we do much of anything, first I'm gonna take this hard drive slide out, which I do happen to have a couple hard drives in one. I have this Seagate Barracuda in one of these drives, because they used to have 2 drives in there. But it has gotten in the way because I hoard hard drives in a sense. So these are thumb tight screws, and we're just gonna unscrew them. Amazing part about this case. Yoink that forward. Now we magically have a bunch more room to put this anywhere we want. Use it as whatever we want. So yeah, just throw that. And how you get these is you pull one side, pull that out, do that. How it locks is with these little notches that align with the screw slots inside the hard drive. So you get it in and you pull it one side, pull on the other. It magically just does not come out. Once again, we're gonna take that back out because we're not using that. Now, as we have about most of the computer finished, we're going to get front panel headers connected. So that includes this HD audio port. This also includes the USB, the front panel connectors such as power, reset, the LEDs, and whatnot, and the USB 3.2 on the front. So first we're going to take all of the cables, because, well, most of them. So this one, the USB cables are going to be separated from the bunch as they go on the side of the motherboard and not on the bottom. So these two will get routed through where the motherboard power is. So it's getting routed through right here. That's going to be just thrown in right there. The HD audio is going to be routed in through the other side, toward this side of the case, right down here. And the front panel connectors are going to be routed through on this side. So now we got these front panel connectors right here. We're not going to start on this first one. There's a second one, and there's quite blatant split with the hot pin missing. First thing we're going to plug in is the power SW. Power SW. Plug this one in right into the top. Boom. And the next thing, we're going to take these two small ones, and we're going to do power LED minus. Then we're going to do plus right next to that. This is going to be down there. And now we have the reset switch. And now that goes directly under. You can undo the power. Now that goes directly under where the power would go. Does not matter if it's up, down, or what orientation these things are in, as long as they're on the pins. So it goes like this. Power SW, power LED minus, power LED plus. Make sure all of them there. And the reset switch goes directly underneath the power. Now, since we've gotten all what we need plugged in for the current moment, we are going to take our GPU, in my case 7900 XT, and slot it into the first PCI slot. Wait for the click, it clicks in. We need to screw that in, but first we are going to take this cable, plug it in. Now if you're building your own computer, I highly suggest not using one of these like ribbon type cables, or they're not ribbon cables, but I don't suggest using a daisy chain like this. I suggest using 2 separate PCIe slots, PCIe cables, especially if it is a high wattage, like 300 watts or more. You want to use 2 different cables. I undervolt my GPU personally. I undervolt mostly everything because AMD is really good at making sure you can undervolt and still have really good performance. I can undervolt my 7950 XT Ryzen 9 and it still perform up to par with it not being undervolted, and with AMD's how the GPU and the CPU work together. There's no reason I can't undervolt it and still get almost near matching performance, which is amazing. I appreciate them doing that very much. I should have probably routed this cable through right here. We'll live with it like that. I don't feel like fixing that. So now we have the CPU, we have the RAM, we have the SSD, the GPU. All the fans are connected. Now to see if this computer posts. Now I did some slight cable managing and got the SATA cables plugged in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cables. We have some SATA cables right here. We have 2 SATA power connectors. And I believe we should have some more. We should have 3 more. So then we're gonna take this other SATA power connector, plug it into the power supply. Now we have 5. Now what we're gonna do is separate all of these, throw them over there. We're gonna make room for hard drives, very jankily. This way. I'm gonna take one. I'm gonna slot that one right here, because there's no real slots in this, because I took them out just so I could have some more room. That's me. And what we're gonna start with is to plug them in. SATA 1, 2, and where's the 1, 2, and 3 are all right here. We're just gonna plug them in on the outside. 1, uncross those 2, 2, and 3. Now we're gonna reach for these SATA cables, and we're gonna use the initial ones that came right off the power supply without plugging anything in. The 2 chain to plug into these 2 bottom drives. Okay. And that red one is crossed over between those, so we're gonna pull that out. Plug one in there. Power cable. Another power cable right here. 2. Oh, and if you do not know how to do this, look at the grooves on there. There's little drops, and on the SATA cable, there's also that drop. So you just match it, and then on the power, same thing. You just match it with that, and you plug it in, and you're done. Now we're gonna take these 3. We're not gonna bother much about them. No, they probably shouldn't be in this, or they really shouldn't be in this orientation, as stuff vibrates, and well, hard drives are mechanical and vibrations can mess it up. So we're gonna tighten these cables down. No one sees the back, so we're fine. We can just jam all of the cables in. As long as the back panel closes, we're pretty much fine. So we got all those in. And what we're going to leave out the RGB. We're not going to even worry about that because I prefer personally not to have as much RGB. So then we're going to take this panel, this whole big side panel thing, put it in the grooves right there, and close it, and screw it in. And there's some like thumb screws like right here that are just thumb tight. And there is a bend within this case. That is not because the cables on this one, it was from a previous build where the cables did happen to not fit. Well, we have the PC as it was, no RGB, so it's down there. Currently we're working on a Unreal Engine 5 video, so OBS is up there. Got this up. Audio equipment, everything's a mess. Paper, and the PC that we built. It's performing perfect to run Unreal Engine and OBS. So I say we did pretty decent.